Did you all to hear what I'm saying? Success is a plan that takes years in the making. When nobody did, I believed. Had to let go of things I did not need. Cut off some friends in the process, what could I say? I could no longer carry the dead weight. Get off your ass, there's lots you can do. You wanna learn something and watch how I move. But they don't wanna do shit. They wanna be spoon-fed like a little baby. That shit is crazy, boy. Change up your mindset. I get 3 days worth of work done in just one. 727 mindset is the hustle for us. You get it?
Hey, what's happening, everybody? John Highley here with the Kingdom Power Life podcast. I wanted to jump on here for my very first interview on in the actual Kingdom Power Life podcast. Is Alex Corona and Jamie Burks, is two of the most incredible real estate agents, amazing people that I know. These two, whenever they walk into the room, they absolutely light it up. And their relentless pursuit of just being individuals who not only maximize their time and effort that they are contributing into this world, but the value and the power that they bring to their communities, to their employees, to just everybody around them is just incredible. I mean, you really got to appreciate what Alex and Jamie are doing. You've got to be around them. And these are the type of people that I love to be around because I want to be inspired by anybody that I am coming and associating myself with. And I can tell you that these two are nonetheless doing that actively to everybody that comes around them. So what's happening, Alex? What's happening, Jamie?
Man,
welcome to the Kingdom Power Life podcast.
Thank you so much, and we'd love to be around you too.
No doubt about it, bro. You're one of my favorite humans on this planet. No doubt about it.
I appreciate that, my man. That's the cool thing about it. You know, positive knows positive, and like is going to attract like. And that's what I love about it. So you guys are standing at your real estate agency right now.
Yep.
And Alex, he let me know that he broke like every traffic rule on the way here, which is that's common for me too, you know, but my wife is one of them ones that tells me to slow down, you know, like, and I stomp on the brakes and the car's like, you know, like 50 feet ahead of us. And I mean, you almost think that she was like, grabs me like we were getting ready to wreck, you know, and all that. So, but she thinks I'm a crazy driver, and I drive a Ford F-450 kind of like it's a sports car, you know?
It is. It is. That thing's got a big motor.
So Alex, you know, ultimately, you rededicated your life to Jesus with me on a call. You know, what was it? Probably a couple months ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
It was amazing. You know, so much has changed since then.
Yeah, so let's go into that. Let's just talk about that. Let's get into, you know, y'all's testimony and really whatever you guys want to get into. That's the thing about this. You know, we're not planning this podcast. We're not, you know, sticking a bunch of questions in here. And before we got on, me and Alex talked and we said, you know, if some of y'all could hear some of the deep conversations that me and him get into, and Jamie and all of us when we're at different business meetings, whether we're meeting up at the Apex, you know, business headquarters, or if we're just out to dinner or something like that, or just on a Zoom, people could really benefit from that. So we wanted to keep this very casual and not very strict and stiff or any of that kind of stuff. You know, none of us like that anyway. So tell me a little bit, Alex, about your testimony, and Jamie, chime in, you know, as well, and let me know, you know, however you guys want to go, wherever the Holy Spirit takes it.
What I could tell you is that I needed that right at that moment. You know, I feel all the time like God's speaking through you to me constantly. So anytime I talk to you or anytime I hear you speak, I literally could just hear you talk all day. It's a beautiful thing.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. So that's something, you know, the Bible speaks through all of us if we read it, you know, and I mean, like at the end of the day, I like to take credit myself, but I mean, it's just, I can take credit for doing the work and actually reading it, and then it comes out of me and that's it, you know? So it's God's word. It's kind of like, you know, I like to tell people, they're like, well, how can you hear God? Right. And it's like, well, I mean, how could you hear Dr. Seuss if you read his books over and over and over and over and over and over and over again?
Yeah.
You know, or any author for that matter that you read over and over and over again, that you would be taking all of them learning lessons, and you would hear them in your mind as you were doing things, right? And I always tell people that's the sure way, you know. If you're not sure if God's talking to you, go look in the Bible and see if it's in there, because if it's not in there, it's probably not God, you know.
Definitely.
So awesome, man. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about you know, what's been happening over the last few months. Yeah, tell me what's been going on in your life, man.
It's been really positive. I've been, I do, everything I do is for my heart. I don't do anything for my mouth out, and I do it because I want to. And it really helps to set the tone in my life and bring the right people in my life, like yourself. So I just continue to do the right thing, always, no matter, even when it hurts. And it's been a blessing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, but that's actually in the Bible. That's called living righteously. So when they talked about that, then righteously doesn't mean perfect, So, righteous technically just means that every day you're waking up trying to be a better version of yourself. And that's just the terminology that they used back then. Today, we might use it as motivated, or that we listened to an Ed Milet podcast, or, something to that nature. But biblically, it was waking up and just trying to live better. Trying to live righteously means right living, actually. And so that's when, I don't know about you, but any time in my life that I've had the best time of my life has been accompanied with particular types of discipline, where I've just became a better human. And I can look back at them times and see what I did, that I was so disciplined and I was so focused and I was passionate, and things began to manifest in my life, and a lot came out of that. And I always look at them times, and like you said, just, even when it's hard, it's still good, right? And I look back at them times in my life and I say, these are the turning points. These are the times when it's hard. It is good. And when it is good, it is righteous. So that is actually living righteously. And at the end of the day, we're called to do that. I believe there's a huge confusion culturally about this, that people, they think it means self-righteous. They think it means like I can go judge people because I say that I'm doing something that I'm, tell me your thoughts on that, because that's probably the hard thing of you coming into being a believer. Is I believe what repels most people from being believers is that you meet all these judgmental Pharisees, is what we want to call them. Jesus, he attacked the Pharisees when he was here. And, he did this because of their self-righteousness. They were righteous on their own. They didn't submit to the Lord. They didn't submit to God and allow him to judge things and allow things to unfold. They were inserting their judgment upon people, So, and I know you're a very unjudgmental individual. So, tell me, coming into this, how did it feel, knowing that there's going to be judgment and all these people and, the particular types of Christians out there that you might have to deal with?
So that's one thing I really don't worry about, because I always do me. No matter what, there's always going to be people that don't like you. They like you. It's okay with me. I'm okay with that. And I don't judge anybody. I treat everybody the same. I don't care if you're a billionaire or you're homeless. You have nothing to bring to the table. It's okay. You have a seat at my table. It's okay. I'm not judging anybody.
That's typically the hard thing, getting involved in the way the Christian church is today. It's very interesting. They really confuse righteousness of just going out and doing good, what you're talking about, with self-righteousness. That's and I think me and you kind of had to talk about this early on, that like I thought that you were more Christian than most Christians. And that was something that I think needed to be explained a little bit deeper to you. But what I seen in you is that you were actually acting it out. And some people think the word Jesus is a magic word. And it was proven biblically that that's not true. In fact, there's a couple guys that were they seen, Apostle Paul and, all these guys going out and using Jesus to cast demons out and all these things, right? So they said, well, it's a magic word. We'll use it too. And they go in and try to cast out this demon-possessed man and get the crap beat out of them, to the point where they had to run out of there naked. Wow. Rip their clothes off, right? So, it's not a magic word. It's a way, right? And I knew that you were living the way already. So you were already living the way. And I just love seeing the, what's happening with it. So tell me, what drives you? What motivates you every day to do things the way that you do?
Just to be a better person. I got 3 boys that are watching me, and I have my girl watching me, and I have myself watching me. And I just, I've set the standard, and I just want to keep raising the bar. I don't want anything to make me lower my standards, and I just try to be a good person, because I know that that's the right way to do things. So I don't want to. I want to make sure that I'm making Jesus happy, and I hope he's waiting for me with open arms.
Alex has helped me a lot. I feel like my faith when I was young was like I grew up in the church, and my mom raised us Lutheran and things like that. And I think a little bit along the way I lost that. But then living with Alex and seeing how he is, it really helps. It helps a lot being around that as well. And I think that I want my kids to believe and have faith as strong as Alex's is, because I know that mine is not as strong as his is, and I'm working on that.
Wheeling her in.
Wheeling me in. So that would be a question actually that I have for you. Like, first, what would be something that you would recommend as like first steps to someone who's struggling with faith? Like, what would you recommend them to do as first steps on that journey?
So, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So faith is belief in the unseen, right? And essentially, a lot of our problems that we have up on this earth comes from thinking that we own things. So a lot of this is us thinking that we have ownership. If we're out of faith, that means that we're really worried about whatever's going on in the current moment. So there's something going on in the current moment that's plaguing us, that's causing us to feel that we own that situation. And what happens is God doesn't take over until we give it over to him, right? Now, we're called to be incredible stewards. In fact, we're called to work hard. We're called to live righteously. We're called to do all of these things. But at the end of the day, you've got to hand it over to God on a spiritual level. Now, I talk about this because the money is a very critical thing that gets a lot of people, and it got me for a long time. And one of the things was me not handing it over to God on the spiritual level. And I'll give you an example of what that means. So to bring wealth and to bring abundance and to bring all of God's light into your life, it takes faith. And if you have money just pouring over you at certain times in your life, right? We tend to start to think we own it, we created it, we did it. All of a sudden our head starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So it begins to fill our vessel and becomes a false god. And so the way God designed the world is to correct that, is to send a correction to us to break us of that. So if you see anybody fall, it's because they're at the top of pride, right? So they're filled with their own, juju or whatever, right? They're not accepting the light of the Lord anymore. So what's happening there, you got to get to the point in life where when it starts raining down on you, and when God's love and light, because money is light from God. As long as you give it back to God and you're not worshiping God. So it ain't money, it is God. It ain't provision, it is God. It ain't love, it is God. It isn't, a car, a house, air that you breathe. It is God. So the moment that you start thinking that it is it and that you possess it instead of giving it all back to God, you come out of what's called infinity with the Lord. Infinity with the Lord is the number 8. And the reason why the number 8 is like this, because you see how it just keeps going? You see how it keeps going? We got a very limited vessel down here. We can only take so much energy. God is the 99,100,000% around us, in everything, through everything, and is all things in and through. He has all the energy, all the power. So everything that we should be doing it for God. So that takes faith. And let me give you an example of this. When money starts pouring down on you and you're like, oh gosh, we're doing good. You got 2 choices. You're either going to get scared, like you're going to lose it. You're going to get big-headed and you're going to say, I did it. Oh yeah, God, that's right. I remember him. And so that's the time when you got to cleave to the Lord. And here's how you do it. You do it on a spiritual level. So you give it back to him on a spiritual level. You give on a physical level too. We all know the rules to that. I don't have to go over all that. That's in your heart, but on the spiritual level, you go to the Lord and you say, God, I love that you're doing this for me. And I honestly, I want more because it's you. It's not the money, it's you. So I want more of it. And then you go to, but you got to get to the point where you can look at God and say, but you know what? All I need you. So if it was gone all tomorrow, I already know you're leading me. I already know you're going to take care of me. I already know that if it was all gone tomorrow and I was out there on the streets just with my shoes and my one outfit of clothes, I'd be fine because I already know you would take care of me. And so the Lord loves that. And that's when you come into faith with him. And what it does is, Jesus talked about this, about worry and how we were supposed to give all of our worries over to the Lord. Well, when you hand them over to him, you get into infinity with him. So he can actually give you more of what it is that you're receiving. Anytime that we get at a point where we just start receiving and that abundance comes pouring in, I used to get scared like I was going to lose it, because I come from a poor background where all of a sudden all this money starts coming in. I'm like, oh Lord, I'm going to do something to mess this up, or, somehow it's going to stop, or somehow I'll begin to start to think I own that situation. Like that's actually, I was in control of it. When the truth of the matter is the Lord, like everything comes from the Lord. You get money from somebody, it came from the Lord because the Lord created that somebody. And the thing that they gave you and the thing that they did. So it's like having the hierarchy of understanding the creator's right here and everything else comes to you through the creator because the creator created everything. So when you get into infinity, and it's a perfect system because our vessel is only so big. God's vessel is limitless. So we can't store all of that light because we'll become filled with it. And then we can't be filled with any more blessings. So you got to empty yourself all the time. That's kind of why, guys, you ever hit rock bottom before?
Absolutely.
So that's why the Lord steps in when you hit rock bottom, because you were filled with the wrong ideas. You were filled with yourself. You ever heard somebody say, well, you're full of yourself? Well, what else can you be full of other than yourself? The light of the Lord. So when we hit rock bottom, we're emptied. And then finally he goes, I've been putting all this pressure on you because I've been trying to come in. You see, God never stops trying to come in. We block him. It's like I got a window right here beside me. If the sun's beaming down on that window and I pull up the shades, does that stop the sun from beaming down? Does that hurt the sun's feelings? Does that offend the sun? No, not at all. The Lord's the same way. So a lot of times when we have pressure coming down on us and we're worried and we have stress, that's like they say that's the light of the Lord trying to push itself in you so you can get out and give it back to him. These worries and these stresses you're holding on to, give it back to him. And then you can kind of come into an affinity with him. So I think the answer to your question, Jamie, is that knowing the way things work would be even more important, just as important with as faith, is just knowing why you need it.
Yeah, I think the way you explained it almost gives you no choice but to have faith.
Yeah, I believe ultimately that's the way it was supposed to be translated and explained. And because if you look at ancient Hebrew wisdom and all this, I mean, they all knew this. It was in their language, guys. Like people knew just by their language, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, each letter meant a particular thing. And they knew by their language that this is how the world worked. Imagine that. You knew God just by knowing your ABCs. That's the original ancient Hebrew. That's why I studied the language. And it's something that was like common knowledge, back then. And a lot of this common knowledge has been taken away from us and distorted. And that's just what the enemy does. The opponent does that. And I'm not even mad at the opponent because the opponent's here for a reason. God created the opponent. Y'all ever think about that? He's still the opponent. But why? It's for our growth.
No doubt about it.
Yeah,
I've been working on Jamie for a while now, and she sees me. There's nothing I don't do without putting God first. And I thank him every time I get home. I thank him before I leave, and I stay in a grateful state. So that way, I tell her all the time, you can't be mad and grateful at the same time.
That's true. My friend Tom Ziegler told me that gratitude and fear cannot exist at the same time.
Yep.
And gratitude is absolute faith. And even going back to gratitude, and another thing to answer, Jamie, is prayer. Prayer is amazing, and especially. So one of the keys that you got to understand about prayer is that prayer is not so God can change your situations. Prayer is for God to reveal to you what you need to change for your situation to change. You see, we're all put here with a particular level of issues that we're bound to have. And these particular issues that our soul comes into this earth with are being fixed during this lifetime. If you receive Jesus, they're cleansed, they're fixed internally at a soul level, at a spirit level, but that doesn't mean they're fixed on the physical level. You see, even people, great men like Apostle Paul, struggled with his body, being in opposition to his spirit. He said, my hands would go and do something, or I would go and do something, but my spirit didn't want to, So, and he declared it because we live in a sinful environment and that things are dying. Things don't die in heaven. Things die here. So we're actually in like a bubble of, like a death bubble or whatever, right? But that is for our growth. And if you actually look into biblically, there's a lot of talk in the ancient Hebrew wisdom that Adam came here, which all of us, I don't know if you know this, but all of us were in Adam. So that's the premise. Like we all started in that one singular soul. And we came from the next one and 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 the next one, right? All came from Atom. And there's a lot of talk in ancient Hebrew wisdom that Atom, because in the Bible it says, God said, when you eat of the tree, you're surely going to die. So if God said, when you eat, that means he was implying that you're going to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Some say that he might have ate it prematurely. Some actually say that Eve caught that. That Eve said, God said that we're going to eat it. Let's just go do it. And then that's his descension into the lower realm to correct it. The human beings, people are going to realize one day, y'all, that we came here and we did our job. We may be imperfect. We're like God's most perfect, imperfect creation ever. And I think the only way we could have ever been perfect was to be imperfect. But we're going to correct this thing that we're in. I'm not a big fan of the world's going to the negative. I know that can't be true. Because nothing that God does is ever going to the negative. It's always going to the positive. There might be some birthing pains getting there, but it's all going to the good.
I agree
Absolutely,
with that.
Especially with that mindset. There's no doubt about it.
100%.
That's one thing I don't like is anything negative around me. I don't like any negative talk, negative people, negative energy, period. Gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that, Alex, because I was talking to a couple the other day, and I was talking to one of the couples. I won't give you too much information because I don't want to reveal who it was. But they didn't like negative talk, about other people especially. But their significant other would always come and they would always say, well, it's my opinion, about this person, right? And so this individual comes to me and says, what do I do about this? I don't like talking about it, and every time I come home and there it is, and this and that. And you know what I told him? I said, you need to suffer it out. He said, why? I said, because there's nothing worse about being judgmental about somebody being judgmental. Doesn't that negate itself? Right? I said, I said, all you have to do is show up and be the giver and be the light. That's when it's going to change, not when you try to force it to change.
Right.
So some of that is our thing, is like we got to show up, and especially if you, I'm a big fan. If I feel pain in the situation, I'm gonna let it go through as long as I possibly can. I'm gonna let it go through. I'm gonna let it roll through me because it's revealing something about me that God's telling me that I need to fix. I need to work on. And maybe it's an ego thing, right? You ever been standing at a party and somebody just comes up by you and gives you that sideways handshake, and then goes talking to somebody else, and you're just standing there and you're just like, am I just like here, like standing, right? like, and they just go and turn and just talk to somebody else, and you just feel like you're standing there and you're looking around like nobody's talking to you, right? In that moment, man, burn it out. Don't pick up your phone. Don't do anything. Just start wishing positive upon them. Look at them and go, and I just hope they have a good life. Oh, God bless them. Love them. Oh, I don't care how stupid I look. I don't care if everybody in this whole party thinks I look like a stupid idiot standing here. Let it burn through, man. Because that's the stuff that corrects the old ego.
Love is always the answer.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
So, well, tell me about something, tell me a little bit about your past, Alex. Like, what about growing up, man? I know you had a crazy,
it's been a heck of a
childhood.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm a miracle right here standing before you.
Tell me why you say that.
So I wouldn't be here if, so my dad, 2 years before I was born, he decided to commit murder. And he's been on the run now 45 years. So he's really good at hide and seek. And so I grew up without a father. I actually watched the movie yesterday. It was pretty sad. The mom, what was the name of the movie? I forgot what it was, but it was in Spanish, actually. I had Jamie watching it. I'm trying to teach her Spanish, so she watched the Spanish movie with me yesterday. But it was about, the mom had the baby, and then she left him with who she thought was the baby daddy, but he wasn't. And he raised her for like 8 years, and then she comes back trying to take him back. But back to my story. But it made me sad, just thinking about what they went through, because it was pretty much just brought back a lot of memories. I've lived my whole life without a dad, and pretty much just ran the streets ever since I was pretty young. My brothers are a lot taller than me, and I stopped growing because I started smoking pretty young. Smoking weed damn near every day by like 5th grade, and getting all my friends high at baseball. And I was really good at baseball. I probably could have done some of myself, but the weed got in the way. And even so, after I had you bringing me back to the Lord, I decided to stop smoking weed. So I haven't smoked weed. I smoked weed for, was it about 32 years? So 32 years straight. And then, after speaking with you, I decided to, stop smoking. So that was one of the blessings that has happened since, we did that. So it's been really good. But yeah, ever since, growing up, I got to the point where, I even had to flee the country. I got arrested, did some jail time. I had to flee the country. They were trying to lock me up till I was 21. I was wanted in Mexico as well, so I decided to flee Mexico, came back. Now I'm wanted in 2 countries. And, it got to the point where I lost hope. I didn't think there was no future for me. And to the point where I knew where my stepdad kept his gun, and, I went to find it because I was ready to blow my head off. And thank God, the grace of God, that the gun wasn't where it was supposed to be. And I'm standing here now. And
man, that's an incredible story, brother. My father was in prison when I was born. So a similar story, and I really didn't meet him until later on in my life, only to find out that he's a tough one to have around. He's almost like a danger, to your family and to people around you. So he hasn't learned, his lesson. So I feel the same way in that regard. Interesting enough, the reason why, because I've, done a lot of drugs in my past, and I'm very open about that, and at a very early age. Me and you probably would have been pretty good friends growing up, man.
No doubt.
So we would have probably found each other and been like, man, it'd been like brother, like we are today, right? But in a different level, at a different mindset. And what that comes down to, because I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and what happens is the devil typically never attacks the relationship between like the mother and the kids or the father and the kids. What he does is he attacks the relationship between the mother and the father, because he knows that if he can remove one of them from the equation, the kids are done. And because what that comes down to is it puts the kids in a situation where we didn't have stability. We didn't have somebody to look at and feel as stable as we really should have as children. So what happens is, where do we look for stability? In drugs. We look for, something to, most of the times when anybody does any kind of drug, and I don't really, I guess it depends how you use weed. I think anything can be addictive, and weed can definitely be addictive if you've got to use it all the time, or you've got to use it as a crutch, all the time. I don't think it is in some medical uses and stuff like that. That's all per individual, totally different podcast. But, that being said, it is reaching for the light. And the biggest problem with it is it has anything that's an addiction is kind of like a fake light. Like you get it and you go up a little bit, but then you live a life where you've got to come down. Right. And you lose it. And puts people in a life of like ups and downs and things like that. So after you quit smoking weed, what do you feel has changed, or how has that impacted you?
So I'm definitely a lot more clear-headed, and I definitely feel like it's impacted me. I've had a lot better life with my girl, my kids, my life period. I'm not wasting my time, chasing a high. And like you said, there was a lot of other drugs involved during my lifetime. Definitely lots of drugs. How I'm still here, I have no idea. But Jamie will tell you I've been with her 23 years, so it's been a while.
I've been around for a lot of it, but he was already fixing himself when we got back together.
Yeah. So back to when I was about to blow my head off. It's like I said, by the grace of God, it's almost like he flipped a switch in my head, and it was time to stop playing victim and stop feeling sorry for myself for not having a dad. And I started feeling really lucky that I'm here, because when I started really thinking about it, I said, you know what? If they would have caught him, I wouldn't even have been here. And, it just changed everything. And ever since then, I've really been striving for, to be the best person. Even when I was selling drugs, I tried to be the best drug dealer. I tried to be, the best businessman. I try to give my people the most value since I can remember. And I've always set the standard. I've always, took care of myself. But ever since then, I've really, really pushed it to become a best version of myself.
Man, drug dealers are always the weirdest people, though. I mean, I'm sure we probably were weird too whenever we were drug dealers. Just such a weird people to be around. I mean, you ever went up and got your drugs from a drug dealer? It's always a weird situation.
No doubt.
There's always sketchy things happening. The person is always doing something that's just strange in general. So no, it's good to be out of that life, man.
No doubt about it. No doubt. I was at a training right now, and they said that the number one person that has a conversion rate is a drug dealer. That's what they were talking about.
Well, yeah, because they don't. They're not selling anything. They got something everybody who does drugs wants.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. I actually hired my brother-in-law, who was a drug dealer at one point, and I had a line of automotive products. When the car dealership tries to sell you the coatings on your cars and all that stuff, we had a line that we were bringing into the state of Ohio. So I decided to hire him. I'm like, well, he used to be a drug dealer. Maybe he could sell this stuff. So I was very young. That's how naive I was back then. And he actually went into a car dealership and tried to sell it. And he was almost he tried to sell it like it was drugs, and they laughed him out of the place. He went in there and was kind of like, hey man, I know you want some of this stuff, man, and pulling it out of a little briefcase, be like, man, this is the stuff right here, bro. And that was his whole sales pitch. And he came to me all startled. He's like, dude, they laughed at me, man. And I'm like, well, what did you do? And he told me, I'm like, bro, it's not drugs. You can't sell that like a bag of weed, man. And but it was kind of hilarious to see that he actually tried to do it that way. So it was definitely worth the little bit of embarrassment I had there.
He did what he knew.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys. You guys met, did you say 22, 23 years?
Yeah. Well, I've known her even longer. We went to grade school together. I think 7th.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you got to date your grade school crush, huh, Alex?
Well, I wouldn't say she was my crush at the time, but
okay.
I knew her. So
yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about how you guys eventually ended up getting together. Tell me a little bit about how you all got together. I know you guys are going to be speaking together. You guys are going to be going on panels together and talking about amazing things. So tell me a little bit about that.
I take her everywhere I go. So I'll tell you that.
Best friends. Yeah. So I've known Alex since I was teenage years, and we grew up in the same town, and we were friends with benefits for a very long time. And it got to be shortly thereafter he had his first son, which is my stepson. He had him in 2005, and I moved in with Alex in 2008. So we started to get together where we're like, okay, we're going to be together, just me and you now. We've been through all this other craziness. And we've remained friends, surprisingly, even throughout that time. So we've always been super cool with each other. And about 2007, 2008, I moved in, and that was it. Ever since then, at the time, the market just crashed in real estate, so I got in the car business. He got me into the car business, and that's what I did while real estate was down. And then 2015, opened up our company, had a couple kids together, and the rest was history.
Man, that's amazing.
Still working on lots of things together, but I grew up so differently from Alex. My parents are still married after 52 years, and Definitely did not grow up on the streets. I was around drug dealers, but I did not deal them myself. And I've been through a lot of his different phases of things and saw what a difference he's made in his life since those years. And it's just amazing. So, I applaud him every day for doing everything that he's done. So he still teaches me so much.
Sometimes I tell her stuff, and I have to come through. That's it. It's the bottom line. If I tell her I'm going to do it, I got to do it. It's one of my core values. So even when I told her I was going to stop smoking, even I thought to myself, like, I got to do it. Like, there's, I said,
and I just kind of stay quiet. I'm just supportive, whatever he's doing.
She definitely has my back. That's
doing it, then I'll support that and when he asks for my opinion, I'll give it to him, and just whatever he's doing, I just stand behind him.
I couldn't be more blessed. God definitely looked out when he sent Jamie my way. There's no doubt about that.
And we're two different kinds of people, so it works.
She knows everything I don't know,
and vice versa.
Yeah, literally. And I stay in my lane, she stays in hers. We talk about some stuff together, but I trust her with my life. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's interesting because in relationships, typically you do end up with your opposite. My wife is quite my opposite. I mean, in a lot of things, and just little things, in ways that we do life, and in ways that we just communicate. In about every aspect, me and my wife are quite opposite from each other. And the truth of the matter is that God puts us in these relationships to actually make our souls better. I always say this: the only reason that even relationships even exist is to get us closer to the Lord. And because we are literally correcting ourselves, and it's ancient, very ancient Hebrew wisdom that our first line of communication from God is going to come from our wives or our significant others. And because they're going to see things about us that other people won't tell us. They're going to see our blind spots. If you walk around and you got toilet paper hanging out of the back of your pants, some of your employees might just laugh at you, but Jamie will come get it, And so she sees your blind spots. So there's a lot of men that make this mistake to think that it's nagging. And it's so interesting, Alex. I don't know if I ever told you this, but the male and the word for husband and wife are very, very similar in ancient Hebrew. And there is literally two different letters on the very end, the last letter. So Hebrew will reach from right to left. So the very last letter that's different is an indication of how we are actually to maintain our life together, how we're supposed to do things together, how we're supposed to come in our own infinity together. And the man is actually supposed to be the channel, meaning we're supposed to be the channel of the light of the Creator inside of the household. That's why we're called the Father. The Father's called the Father, and we're called the Father, right? So when we do things correctly, we're a giver. We are giving light to our household. Now, the woman, on the other hand, is actually the vessel. They are the door to the spiritual realm. They are where miracles come through. And you can see that in our primal functions, right? The man gives, and then the woman her vessel gets filled, and then she manifests a miracle through birth. Well, it actually functions the same on the spirit level. And that's in the Hebrew language, in the words. So what happens is the man is supposed to be the channel of the light, and the woman is filled with the light of the Lord, and she becomes the light of the household. And so now here's what happens. And I don't think I've ever told you this, Alex. I'm going to tell you right in front of Jamie. So we are allowed to be criticized by them, but we can't criticize the wife. Here's why. So as a man, we don't criticize ourselves enough. We don't. We just go through life thinking, what's wrong with me? We almost like, what? Something's wrong with me? What? I can't understand what you're saying right now because I don't know anything, right? So we don't criticize ourselves enough. So the woman will come and criticize the man. And the man is supposed to take that as their first line of connection to the Lord. Now, you can't criticize the woman. Why? Because women criticize themselves all day long, a lot. So women are always, they're self-criticizing all the time. What happens is if the man criticizes the woman, he cracks her vessel on a spiritual level, and she can't manifest miracles in their household. You ever see a woman that's over-criticized by the husband? You ever see what that looks like? It's terrible, isn't it? He doesn't know that he's like literally screwing up all the miracles that could be happening in his house and turning off the light that should be shining and glowing in his household. That's the beautiful thing about why I was talking about infinity with the Lord. Well, that's the infinity as we come together. And through that infinity, we're supposed to actually become closer to God. Like our relationships are supposed to bring us closer to God. They're supposed to make us more righteous. They're supposed to make us better. And that's the only reason that the relationship exists at the end of the day, is to get us closer, both of our souls closer to the light of the Creator.
Don't stop my miracles.
No. I mess with her a lot, but there's no criticizing. Yeah.
Oh, well, messing with them, that's a whole different story. I can't stop doing
that's
that.
That's all I do, yeah. All day long. I keep her laughing.
Yes.
But you know it's out of love.
Sometimes she's not sure if I'm playing or not, but I'm playing.
It depends on my mood sometimes,
I'm playing.
Oh, I know. I get it too. I get it too. So awesome. Well, man, is there anything, any advice that you'd like to give to the audience out there? Especially if there's somebody in sales and real estate, or just somebody as well who I'd like to hear from both of you about just working with each other, having the dynamic of being a couple together and working with each other. Any advice that you can give? I believe this is a huge hot topic out there.
I feel with us, like working together, I think as long as you can control like emotions in your mind, you can keep the lines of communication open. Because with us working together and having a household together and having kids together and having to solve problems together and make plans together and set goals together, we have to have a lot of clarity, because if you don't, you're just going to bombard everything that's going on with argument. So I think communication, you have to allow to speak, and you also have to be willing to listen often. So that would be my most recommended thing for being in business together. In terms of business, I believe that once we shifted our business focus to always showing our agents and our partners and everyone who we work with that you have to give first and then you receive. I think they see that through everything that we do. So we give a lot to the community. We give a lot to agents. All this training that we get of all these, mentors that we're around, such as yourself, we come back and we give that information to our partners and to our team members, and they see that they're getting that, and then they give as well. So, and then they become, more successful than they were when they first walked in here. So, into our office.
That's great. I love that giving attitude.
So, and on my end, I would say you have to be very coachable. Jamie is literally my best mentor I have. I learned so much from this woman, and it literally gives me anxiety when I'm not around her. So I love being around her, and I love working with her. She's a great mother. I'm very lucky. My kids are very lucky to have her. And, if I could just be more like her, I would, die a happy man. So.
Well, thank you.
But that definitely has to be, you gotta let the person in and take advice from like you said, she's the one that's keeping the household going, and I know that if she's saying something, I need to do something about it.
But also with me, I feel like of all the people in my life, I've learned the most from Alex, and which is interesting because I've gone to school, I've gone to college, I have a bachelor's degree. I didn't grow up a tough childhood. And then here's this guy, he dropped out of high school, and he went to jail, and he lived on the streets. But he's got, the right heart, the perfect heart. And that actually will teach you more than any textbook will ever. I think so.
There's no doubt.
I learned a lot from you.
If I could tell somebody in business, do every single thing you do from your heart. That's it, man. This is it. Love is the answer to it all. If you got to decide, do it from your heart. As long as God knows why you're doing it, that's all that matters. You don't need to get thank yous. You don't need appreciation. You don't need nothing else. As long as He knows what time it is, that's your answer.
Bro, I love that so much, man. I love your attitude on that, because that is the truth. So many people, they think that they're giving, but they're not really giving. And so they give with intention to get something in return. And that could be also, respect, and it could be, They want, it's just something, right? And it isn't till you give with no agenda that you actually get what you want. That's the way the world works. So when you finally give up and you say, you know what, I'm just going to do this to give and to show up like the light of the Lord. So what you're actually talking about doing there right in that situation, Alex, is showing up like God. Like that's you being the channel of God in this world, because God can only give. God, that's all God does is give. And so, like, there's nothing that we can give God. A lot of people think, well, he needs our prayer, but God doesn't need any of it. He just gives relentlessly. Like, God is so powerful that that's all he has. He doesn't lack. So you can't. How do you give somebody something that has no lack, right? So when you actually come to that perspective, you are doing exactly what I was telling that a father is supposed to do in a household, and bring that light of love into the door. And shine it inside of your household. And so that is you showing up and representing what God looks like shining through you. And it's incredible and it's powerful. And it's the one thing I believe that makes you so magnetic as an individual in general, because everybody wants to be close to the light. Everybody wants to be close to somebody who doesn't have a hidden agenda, isn't doing it to manipulate or anything like that. And I know there's a lot of that down here on earth, and we're not trying to act like we've always been saints or anything like that. But I will say that just to see that your heart is in that place and you understand that is really the power of the Lord shining through you. And I mean, all things are going to be possible because you are doing exactly what God told you to do. You look for the kingdom of God first. I believe we only got one choice every day, Alex. I believe when we wake up, it's not, do this, do that. I believe the only choice that we have when we wake up every day that we really should be focused on is that, how do I bring the light of the Lord into the earth today? How do I do it? And you know what, God, I'm not asking to do it alone. I'm asking you to give me strength. I'm asking you to show me. I'm asking you to guide me. And when you start walking like that, God will guide you. God will show you. And God will use you as a vessel to shine his light, just as you spoke of right there, into this earth.
I say it all
it's
the
such
time.
a
We could change the world with random acts of kindness every single day. Even if it's for one person.
Bro, you ever heard the torch principle, Alex?
I have.
My buddy Mike talks about this. And so the torch principle is when your torch is blazing and you're out there and you go out there and your torch is blazing. In the Bible, it says we're like a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. And it goes on to say that, would you take a lamp in your house and put a basket over it? No, you would let everybody in the house enjoy the light. So what happens is you're like a torch blazing. And then all of a sudden from afar, somebody sees this blazing torch, right? And they're in darkness, so they can see your torch. Because you can see a torch from probably miles away, especially here in Plano, it means flat. From miles away in the dark. So somebody's in the darkness and they see your torch blazing. Well, they got a choice. They say either they get repulsed by it, they listen to the devil, or they look at it and go, man, I need to get closer to this guy, because maybe their flame is just barely flickering. Man, their flame is just barely flickering. So when they come and get close to you, you get the opportunity to touch their torch, igniting it. And then they get the chance to do it to the next person, the next person, and the next person. So that's how the light of the Lord gets spread through the world. It's through us, through our connection, through our love. And the truth of the matter is that, I know this to be very true about Alex and Jamie. I've been around these two for probably a couple years now. You've been involved? The business network? Yeah. So, and I've had the opportunity to be around them, and I just see there's certain people that catches my attention, and Alex and Jamie are two people that have caught my attention, just the way they light up the room in general. This isn't even from this would just be from what I believe is what's shining out of them when they enter the room, their energy. I could tell from immediately that your energy was lighting up the place, and it was something that I knew I needed to get closer to.
We thought the same thing about you, bro.
Yeah.
Literally.
We say the same thing.
You and your girl both.
We're like, I just love being around them. I just like, you just feel good after we have a conversation with you and your wife.
No doubt about it.
Appreciate that, man. Well, that's us getting ourselves geared up. We're like soldiers getting ourselves geared up and to take, the world back from whatever this negative thing is. It's taken over a lot of people's lives. Keeping people in pain and keeping people in darkness and, all of these things. So we get the chance to be that example.
I always say too, God, keep going and God will give you what you need when you're ready for it. And, I felt like that's what happened when you came to my life. Like I literally needed to hear everything that comes out of your mouth, bro. Like literally.
It's interesting when you're ready, the right person comes along.
Yep.
And, that's for me too. I always have the right person that shows up in my life. Every time I've ever prayed for wisdom, I talk about praying for wisdom because there's only two ways that you're really going to. Wisdom is a way to circumvent painful tests. And so either you're going to fall by pain because you just didn't know, and then it has to break this part off of you, right? This thing that's holding you, disconnecting you from God. Or you can have wisdom. Wisdom can come to you and you can just circumvent these painful processes that we don't want to go through them, obviously, right? And although we're all going to face some sort of pain, if we can get it through wisdom and go up a few levels before we face that pain, it's even better, And but every time I've ever prayed for wisdom, God He's brought me a person first, so I've found the person that I needed to hear. And then he's highlighted things in his word to me. He's got what's called, when you learn something through God or through a person or reading the Bible, it's called revelation. And what that means is it's just been revealed. Like God, God revealed it to you because you're ready. You're ready to handle it.
Yeah. Your
vessel has been expanded. You can handle more light. You can handle more information. And, you're good to go.
Couldn't be more right on that.
There's a lot of people also, Alex, that say, well, why doesn't God just give it to us all together? Well, because we couldn't handle it. There's a certain level you got to realize is that you can only give people what they're ready for.
About to say you're not ready for it. That's why. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Plus you got to know what to pray for.
People try to disagree. You said you got to go 15-year-old, right?
18, 8, and 5.
18-year-old, well, go cut him $1 million check.
Wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Go buy him a Lamborghini. Nope. You see, the father of the house is saying, no, they're not ready for that. They're not ready for that much light. That's the same way the Father looks at us. Think about that. Think about that.
I tell my guys, if I hand you $1 million,
like, no, because right when you start shaking your head, no, Alex, you were sitting there thinking, no, all these things are computing, like what would happen to them and what they would do and how they would implode it and what would happen and the things that would go wrong, right? The Father, God, sees that in us.
Absolutely.
Sees right to it. So there's a certain level of development we got to do internally before God says, okay, now you're ready. You're not going to go screw your whole life up with this, money or career that I'm about ready to put into your life,
Yep. You're definitely right about that. I used to say it even before I made $1 million.
I love the look on your face when I said that. Go write him $1 million check. You were like, oh.
He wouldn't even take it. He
sure, I would say the same thing with my son.
My kid's a good boy. He wouldn't even take it. He'd say, "Dad,
he wants to do everything himself now.
He don't want. He's got this." So, and I got.
That's the way mine is too. That's the way mine is too. We tried to give him a $100 bonus the other week, and he was trying to deny it, and we had to force it on him.
That's how Dre is. Yeah.
How did we ever get so lucky to have children like that?
It's
all
God,
I'm a bad kid.
It's all God. I'm telling you, it's all God. My whole life I was hearing, oh, wait to see your kids. They're going to be worse than you were. All this, all that. Well,
I heard that too.
And by the grace of God, he's been a good boy, man. I can't thank God enough for that.
It's amazing, Alex and Jamie, man. I appreciate you guys. We're getting at the top of the hour right now. So is there anywhere that anybody can connect with you, whether that's your social media or a website or something like that, anybody could go to and find out?
Absolutely. You can search me on any social media, Alex Corona. You can call the number that changes lives, 708-925-2352. You can find us on the web at coronarealtygroupinc.com.
Yep, search me on the web, Jamie Burks, and my cell phone's the best way to reach me, 708-259-6242.
Man, John, I really appreciate
you so much.
Literally.
You guys are like
My
Mike
heart is
Jones.
full,
You have your
bro.
own number.
I'm
Remember
telling
how Mike Jones had his own number? You know, he sung on his songs. Did you guys hear that? Oh, you guys thought out a little bit. I could still remember that from a Mike Jones song. I still listen to Mike Jones. So
Yeah, Mike Jones.
We're aware.
Yeah, we know.
Yep. All right, y'all. Hey, I appreciate you guys
Thanks for having us,
and
John.
all
Thanks
the
for having us.
Kingdom Power Life peeps out there. Check out Alex and Jamie, and as usual, I'll see y'all on the next one.
Yeah. I'ma need you all to hear what I'm saying. Success is a plan that takes years in the making. When nobody did, I believe. Had to let go of things I did not need. Cut off some friends in the process. What could I say? I could no longer carry the dead weight. Get off